Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast powered by AdCraft, custom apparel and merch. They are the best in the business, but like I say every week, you don't come to hear me prattle on here. We are back in the playoff teams here with Indiana Wesleyan going back-to-back Mid-States, Mid-East teams here. And got head coach Andrew Rode on the podcast tonight. Coach, how you doing this evening?
We're doing well. We're about halfway through spring, or a little bit more than halfway through spring ball. So our guys are starting to feel a little bit banged up, but overall we're doing well and just excited about finishing these last 5 practices and finishing the semester off.
You know what? I'm going to skip to a question just right off. I usually go 24 review and then go into 25, but I'm just way too excited about your first opponent to go back in time. We'll do it afterwards. You've got a huge matchup on the cards coming up in Marion, Indiana, August 30th. You host number 2 Kaiser University. That is a huge matchup. I obviously, when you've got an opponent like that, it has to do wonders for your spring practice, knowing that you've got a big old target that you've got to meet.
Yeah, I mean, Kaiser is a phenomenal football program, and I think that's one of the things that we were excited about, being able to play them right off the jump at the beginning of the season. It just it kind of set the tone. At our banquet, I think is when we announced that we were playing Kaiser. It kind of set the tone. Our guys were fired up to get into workouts and all that. Um, Yet, it brought some energy, but in some ways that energy was a little bit fleeting in those first couple weeks, because it's like our guys aren't focused on Kaiser every single day. They're just focused on getting better, and growing, and I'm sure we'll talk about in a few minutes. We've lost a lot on defense. We've lost a lot on offense, both in terms of players, but also production, leadership. The spiritual side of this team, which is an important part of who we are. We lost a lot of strong leaders in that group from that 2014. Now they set us up for success in the future, but at the same time, a lot of our offseason has been more focused on just us growing, learning who we are, getting young guys to mature and grow up quickly, and really, frankly, just also getting a lot stronger and having it faster as well. So it was a nice boost for some of the time, and I think our guys are motivated to play the game. Yet again, I think our focus has been in the right spot in terms of us just wanting to get better ourselves.
Well, Coach, let's take a look at that 24 slate here. Go a little bit season review. You get a good chance, and you take it there with a clean sweep of the St. Francis's. Both really strong squads. Obviously, cats and dogs over there on
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
mascots there, but really having a defensive showing there against both a 38-3 win against St. Francis of Illinois, 52-14 against St. Francis of Indiana, which had definitely a very good season, making the playoffs there.
Yeah, I think we played St. Francis, Indiana, early in the season, and I'll put a little asterisk next to that game, because they don't, they were going through a quarterback battle at the beginning of the season, and I don't think they had quite figured out who their guy was, and so I think we were able to kind of jump on them early in that game, and I don't know if it was an accurate representation of exactly who they were by the end of the season, but that's also just part of football, is you've got to figure out your team as early as you can, and I think they were still in process of that. but it was a great advantage for us. And I do remember that St. Francis, Illinois game. That was a really tough team, and I forget who the Twins are, but those guys on offense were just phenomenal football players. Um, and yeah, they had a great, really good defense, strong, tough. Those guys play really hard. Um, and yeah, thankful that our defense showed up big time in both those games.
Good news is I think that two of the three Tumbltees were at least
Oh yeah,
seniors. So
and
my
I think the third one was transferring, if I saw that correct on Twitter
I'll
a few
have
months
to
ago.
yeah, I'll have to see when I check in with them. But yeah, that it'll be weird if there's zero Tumbltees down from three. Oh
Yeah,
man. So going out of St. Francis, you play at Valpo. That's a game which has been going back and forth for a while between the two schools. Um, and just taking a look at the score, the box score and reviewing it seems to me that y'all had chances. Um, you just weren't able to get into scoring position really against them. I mean, you were 8 of 16 on third down conversions, 50% rate. You're 2 of 2 in the red zone, but it just seems that you weren't able to get into scoring position enough times to get it done.
and this was, you said, the Benedictine game.
Valpo.
Oh, the Valpo. Oh yeah, that was a. Okay, first off, Valpo was really good. Like, they were
Yeah.
much better than previous years. Their D line was unbelievable. I mean, they had four guys across the board that it's like, you put any of those guys in the NAI, they're probably all four All American type players. I mean, we said we're not going to see a D line like that until the playoffs, and we may not even see like a D line like that in the playoffs ever. Um, so they came out and they really did a good job on defense matching up against our offensive line. I think their skill sets just matched well against us. And then schematically, they did some nice things. I think that was our quarterback's second or third game ever. And I think stepping into that moment, it was a big game, and I don't think we were quite up to speed on offense, probably the way that we needed to be. And so I didn't have us fully ready to go on offense. But our defense played well overall. They did some quarterback run stuff, which we didn't see a lot of that in camp just because that wasn't us as an offense. And so I think we could have been a little bit more prepared than we were last year. And so we've obviously grown in that area in the offseason. But that was a game that we had a lot of opportunities. I think we walked away and felt like we gave them the game. They didn't necessarily just flat out walk in and beat the brakes off us and take it away from us. So it was a frustrating way to end that series. But credit to them, they made plays and we didn't.
Yeah, so going on, you keep winning there. You notch a couple nice wins there, but the one I really want to pull into what is that game against number 10 at the time, Marion, and that being up 49-7 at halftime is a whale of a statement. And obviously your defense comes to play. You can't hold Marion completely down. Obviously, they're too good of a team for that. They do score 21, but to put 77 points up on the board against a top 10 team, that's a coming out party right there.
Yeah, I mean, Marion is incredibly talented. I mean, that hasn't changed in the last 15 or 20 years since they started football, 20 years ago or so. So they're still extremely talented. I think our guys were just ready to play. They understood the game plan on offense and defense and what we needed to do. And I think it had been just kind of a culmination of weeks and weeks and weeks of preparation and work from different games. I think that was one of the games that we felt like we were finally able to put it together, and the offense played well and the defense played well, and special teams complemented both of those two teams. Um, I don't think it was them playing poorly. I think, our guys just came out and they had a fire and wanted to win, and they decided that it was going to be our day, and it was. And saying all that, we still dropped a touchdown pass. I mean, there's a lot of room for improvement still. I mean, there was two touchdowns that we should have put on the board earlier in the game that we didn't. And so there's, frustration walking out of that game, even scoring 77.
you get into the playoffs and you open up with Southwestern, the KCAC squad, and it is, well, when you're able to hold Braden Howell to -1 yards rushing on 8 attempts, including 3 sacks, that's going to be a good day. Defense definitely came to play, holding that Builder team in check. In what was a day that you're just able to do a little bit more than they were?
Yeah, our defense, they held us in that game offensively. And really, when you look at the last two games, that Southwestern game and the Benedictine game, I think we dropped 16 passes in those two games. So just really frustrating way to end the season on offense. But thankfully, in that Southwestern game, we were able to do enough defensively and offensively to just kind of squeak away with a win. Yet we felt like we way underperformed what our capability was as a whole. But yeah, that quarterback, man, he was outstanding. He got the ball out of his hands so fast. And then that defense, I don't think we walked in to that game saying, "Oh my gosh, this personnel is so impressive." But schematically, they were very sound, very, very good. They had a great scheme in every game, and their kids played so hard. And I think credit to that coaching staff and the defensive staff, especially, to have those guys ready to play. And so they played really well in that game. And I don't think we were quite up to our expectation or standards on offense in particular. And and so that was kind of a frustrating way to start the playoffs. But I am thankful that we did win that game. Yeah.
And then your season unfortunately comes to a close against Benedictine there at home. Honestly, that's just a game where I look at the stat sheet and I go, okay, well, your run defense was spectacular, 1.7 yards per rush. However, 10 of 20 between third and fourth down conversions, and Benedictine was able to hold the ball for 40 minutes, which that'll hurt your feelings a little bit.
That was a tough game to swallow. And first off, credit to Coach Osborne and what he did in that game on offense, defense, and special teams. Those guys played hard. They were ready to go. They had a long trip to come out here, and they came out firing right from the beginning. And I truly think we had opportunities on offense, and we had things that were open, and we ran the ball fairly well. But we just couldn't put things together from drive to drive to drive. We couldn't finish drives. And again, a lot of that was drop balls. We had four turnovers. 3 were interceptions. 2 of them bounced right off our guys' hands and right into their defensive backs' hands, which again, we should have caught it. Their guys were in a great spot. Third one was kind of 50-50 ball, and their safety ripped it out of our tight end's arms. So again, credit to them. And then the third one, our All-American receiver is running out of bounds and gets lazy with the ball in a playoff game, and their kid punches it out. So I mean, you look at those things and you just go, they finished and we didn't. And they wanted to win that game, and our guys wanted to, but we didn't want to in such a way that would allow us to do the right things the right way and execute at a high level. So I think you look at that and go, man, Joel had his guys ready to go, and I didn't. And that was a frustrating way to end it, because I think that when I look at the talent of our guys and the talent of the team that we had last year, I genuinely believe it was a team that was capable of winning a national championship, or at least being in that game, and playing alongside Grandview, who was also crazy talented too. So again, those last 2 games, it was a tough way to end it, but it is what it is.
So turning the page into 2025, there's a lot of places that you've got spots to fill here, there, and everywhere. Starting on offense, you've got a couple of offensive linemen, first teamers that you've got to replace in Will Angel and Ben Zebar. But honestly, it's the trio of Kyle Antoine, Roosevelt Cage, and Levi Tidwell that and Tristan Hayes, for that matter. You've got, you can't forget the tight end that you've got to figure out how to replace. Obviously, you get back Whitwell and Smith, and definitely Smith had a fantastic year after everyone knew that they had to cover Tidwell, like white on rice. But Coach, talk to me about finding guys to put into place, and who you think is the leader in the clubhouse at this point to take the snaps for you.
Yeah, that's we lost a lot on offense, and it's going to be challenging. Rose was obviously a special back, yet people keep hammering me on Rose, and it's like, man, what are you going to do? And I think people are forgetting Ryan Whitwell was the starter the entire season, and the only reason he didn't play in those 3 games, which really allowed Rose to come onto the scene, which again it was great that he did, was because Ryan had pulled his hamstring in the bye week, just kind of on a freak moment and play. And so, I think if Ryan had stayed healthy, he would have been he would have continued to produce the way that he had been producing in the first 7 games of the season. So, so having him back will be great. Yet having that complimentary back, I think we're trying to figure that out right now. There's a couple of young guys. Brock Short played a lot on special teams for us last year, and so he's certainly in the mix. And there's Cam Morrison, who's another. He'll be a redshirt freshman. Again, totally unproven. No one knows who he is. He's growing a lot. Those are both guys on the roster that will be certainly in the mix for that probably second spot. But again, there's a lot of offseason left, and we've got 5 practices in the spring game where guys can continue to show us what they can do. From a receiver standpoint, losing Levi, you lose a lot of leadership. He was a guy that was the smartest, or one of the smartest guys on the field at all times on both sides of the ball. And from an athleticism standpoint, great athlete, always found ways to get open. Yet I wouldn't say, although he never really got caught, wasn't a guy that was just a vertical threat for us. And so I think we're trying to figure out exactly who we've got coming back and what that's going to look like, because we've got a lot of young guys that I think are really talented, that should be stepping into the mix in this upcoming season. And there was a few guys that really even started to step onto the scene at the end of the year. And so, they were starting to push some of those seniors that were on their way out. They were starting to push some of those guys from a playing time standpoint. And then Tristan Hayes, he will be sorely missed. He was dynamic in the box, really good blocker. Did enough in the passing game in terms of catching passes. But Simon Vincent played a lot last year. He's probably going to be one of the front runners. Harrison Stomps was another good football player that was injured, walked into the season with a broken foot and wasn't quite able to just kind of get things turned around. And so hopefully he'll have a great offseason and finish this summer out well and be ready to go. But yeah, we'll miss those guys, man.
Defensively, it's a little more of the same. You do get back Anthony Cheeseborough, definitely, along with being a first teamer MSFA Mid-East. He's definitely an all NAIA, all name guy for sure.
Yes.
And the fact that he's a D lineman and you can call him the Big Cheese is that's so perfect. But you do have a couple places where you've got to replace. You've got a couple of D linemen there that you've got to take care of. A couple linebackers in Mosher and Bays that were big guys in terms of getting turnovers. Campbell and Sykes there with 17 PBUs between them in your defensive backfield. You got a lot of holes to fill, but I have the confidence that you can figure out how to do it.
Well, I appreciate the confidence. I wouldn't call those holes. Those are like, I don't know what's bigger than that, but those guys were just incredible players. I mean, Neil and Preston, just those guys, those two, their maturity, their leadership helped the rest of the rest of the young guys in that secondary grow up really, really fast. And they filled and made things right on the back end when guys made mistakes in front of them. Um, Bays, Mosier, and Drake Deshetsky. You can't forget him. He was another first-team All-Conference linebacker. All three of those guys across the middle, they created problems for every person that we played. Running to the field against Clayton Mosier, or throwing to the field, or even looking into the field was a mistake. That guy was a phenomenal football player, a great leader for our team. And then defensively, you're right, we lost Robbie Hunter, Gabe Long, and Caleb Williams. We lost 75% of that defensive front. In terms of guys that started for us. So we felt it in the off season. We felt it through spring ball so far. But credit to those older guys that played last year. The amount of mentoring and growth that our younger guys are starting so much further ahead than they would have been if we didn't have the leadership and the mentoring of those older guys. So it has been, offensively, defensively, there's been moments on both sides, and we've kind of taken our lumps from each other, just because we got so many young guys playing and they're making mistakes. But man, I am proud of this team, because you're not seeing the same mistakes over and over and over again through spring. You make the mistake one time, and the next day it's fixed, and it's fixed for the rest of spring ball so far. So it is a group that is young, but they are growing very quickly.
Well, Coach, it's always interesting to watch the development, especially between the Mid East and the Midwest, and of the MSFA, and kind of this is the second year after kind of a bigger shakeup of the divisions, and kind of starting to figure out where everything lies. So what are some teams in the mid states on either side of the conference that you really think are kind of, they have their window opening, or might be a dark horse, next contender kind of guy, someone y'all are keeping your eyes on and going, y'all might be pretty good?
Starting on the east side, so our side, and I'm going to make sure I can get all these teams right. Siena Heights is always good. Their defense is always really stout and tough, and so I think they're just always a tough team to play, regardless. Lawrence Tech, I think Scott Merchant was doing a great job there, and you saw kind of a culture shift and a group of guys in that team that was really young, but starting to learn and play really good and disciplined football. And so, I don't know if they quite have the top end talent to really compete quite yet, but you could see the pieces starting to come together. They had a good running back, the quarterback was figuring some things out, and he was getting better. The offensive line was big, and they just continued to get better and better as the season went on. And defensively, they were, I think they need a little bit more talent in some areas, but the discipline side of it and doing the right thing, I really thought they were doing some good things and making some strides. Now, obviously, Coach Merchant is left; he's gone. So, to be determined on how that progress grows, or if they're going to end up resetting this year and doing some different things. Madonna will be interesting. They got Matt Strazikowski as their new defense coordinator. He came from Concordia, which obviously shut down. So I think Matt is a phenomenal football coach, and I think they'll make some strides with him on defense. And although it was hard to see it, just because they obviously didn't have a great season, I think offensively they had made some strides this year. I think their defense just hadn't caught up with their offense yet, and obviously I think Matt is going to be able to help that group grow. I'm interested to see what that team is going to be like this upcoming season. I think Taylor is probably the, I would say top team coming back on our side of the conference. Coach Mingo has done a tremendous job over the last few years, and last year was kind of their first real big breakout year. And they've done a great job now, losing two quarterbacks, their first and second quarterback, and still having the season that they had. Makes you believe that they might be able to make some waves next year and cause people some problems like they did this last year. Now they lose Jamison Chester, from what I understand, so he was a huge piece of that offense. But again, that whole crew will be a year older and a year better. And they lost, was it Abe? I don't know, their will linebacker, who was a great football player as well. Had like a 200 tackles or something crazy like that. But that guy he was a stud. So uh, I don't think they're going to take a step backwards. But we'll see how they can do against teams this coming fall again. On the other side, when you get to the west, excuse me, yeah, sorry, the west side, uh, man, that side of the league is still loaded. I mean, you've got Marion, who's going to have a new defense coordinator, who is just always loaded with talent. St. Francis, I believe they have that quarterback back. St. Francis, Indiana has that quarterback back. They're going to be stinking. They're always really good, and I'm sure Coach Donnelly is going to pull in a couple more transfers like he does just about every year.
Right.
Guys that are really good football players, and they're going to find a way to be back on top or right in the mix with everybody. And then you throw in St. X with Coach Feminist, and they had a down year, but my goodness, that doesn't happen often with Coach Feminist. And then Olivet Nazarene was a little bit down this year, but then St. Francis, Illinois was, if you get rid of the Fighting Tumultees, and that team changes a little bit, but
Right.
Coach does a great job with those guys, and they're just going to play hard, and they always play great defense. So that if you can play great defense, you're never going to be out of a game.
I think what I've been saying over the last couple of years about Madonna and Lawrence Tech both is I think if you can get some continuity going there, now that they've had a football program each a few years, if you can get some continuity going there, you might be okay. Coach Straz going over there is absolutely huge. His defenses at Concordia were so good.
Oh
And
yeah,
it
and
is so hard to see them leave. You hate to see anybody leave the athletics and shut that part down, but a team that was pretty much a perennial playoff team, that hurts you deep down.
oh yeah, oh I was hurting for Josh, and obviously I coached there for 5 years, and so I knew those guys well. Um, and and actually, some of the guys that were like the super seniors were like in that last recruiting class that I was a part of before I left. I went out to Morningside, and so I didn't know those guys super well, but I knew about them a little bit, and man, it's an awesome group of guys, and you hate to see that happen, and something that was totally out of Josh Schumacher and Straz and all those guys. It was totally out of their control, just being ripped away from them. So it was frustrating, but I think those guys have all landed in pretty good spots, and they're
Yeah,
the staffs that they're on now is those staffs are blessed, by the presence of those guys.
100%. And we'll be rooting for all those guys at their new spots. It's going to be weird not seeing it, but at the same time, I think you're right. Their new staffs are going to be definitely uh, thanking the Lord that they had a chance to get
Oh
them.
yeah,
So, coach, as you head into 2025, it's your third season. It's they say your second season is the one where you grow the most as a new head coach. But what area of your program, whether it be something on the field or off the field, are you really wanting to focus in on, or be kind of the focus point of your team in 2025?
um, I think we've got a new team. It's young. Obviously, you have that whole group of senior leaders that stepped away. And so I think it's really been a challenge to try to make sure that this team is connected. And although we don't have 32 seniors, it's a much smaller group. It's about 15 guys. But the strength of the two classes underneath them right now, those classes are unbelievable. Like they've stayed together. They're strong. They're big, deep, talented, full of high character guys. And so really trying to get this team to be really connected from top to bottom, I think has been one of the challenges. And really to have them recognize that they are a group and a team, and they've got to do it together rather than you've got this senior class that's really driving and leading it. Now our seniors are, they're working hard at it. But a lot of their leadership is more about connecting rather than just kind of standing in front and leading. So I think that's been one of the big focuses for us. But then even beyond that is just trying to refine practices, be more efficient, be more effective, have a little bit more diversity in terms of what we're doing in practice and how we're practicing, um, really to help our team grow faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I really do think, obviously, having a huge senior class last year is not a uniquely Indiana Wesleyan thing. We're seeing across the nation as that's literally all of those super seniors um, that are finally matriculated all the way through. Um, so everyone's got a whole bunch of seniors, and I think I think we will see who was able to utilize COVID to their advantage and build depth in while they had the opportunity to have 5 and 6 years worth of players. What were you able to do with your team underneath to prepare for the eventuality? And I think we're going to see this year. Um, it will be in the light now that you have to take the cover off of some of those guys that you've
Oh yeah,
been using as depth pieces. So it will be interesting in the NAI for sure. Um, just looking around the league, you've got a whole bunch of new head coaches. You know, it will be interesting in the mid states. You've got 12 there. You can't dip much below that. Thankfully, you've got Defiance in to keep it that
yep,
way. Um, but we'll see. I know the folks who run the MSFA are probably absolutely just busy as can be, trying to make sure that um, you stay at 2 auto bids. But I think that
yeah.
speaks to the strength of the conference at that point.
Yeah, no, it would be a travesty if we dropped below 12. I mean, I think our conference, I would say it was maybe a little bit of a down year overall for our conference last fall, but I certainly don't think it's going to stay that way. I mean, I think this has perennially been one of the strongest conferences for a long time in the NAI, and I think we're going to probably get back to that, either this year or certainly in the upcoming few years. And I think just who is at the top obviously will be a little bit different. And those things have been shaken up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks for taking the time out. I know that had to wait till we got all the youngins to bed. You're four and my one. I
Yep.
appreciate you taking the time out to do this, and we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a really, really interesting year coming up. So
Oh yeah.
excited.
And that week zero, man, you got
Oh
us and
yeah.
Kaiser, and I think you got Morningside and Benedictine playing another top 10.
Yep.
Oh, I guess they're probably like a top 5 matchup with how both those teams finished. But you put all that in play, it's going to be a great week for you to start the season.
Week zero, I think, is that and
It's a
the
playoff week.
it is. It's that and the first full week of playoffs. Not
Yep.
that I don't enjoy those first 4 games, but that week where we get 8 and we just feel like we are just, it is Thanksgiving dinner of football.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but week zero is that way. I remember finishing up week zero last year on our watch along and just leaning back in my seat and going, I feel like I've just been to Golden Corral with the with the football that I've been able to watch, and I love it.
Oh yeah.
I hope everyone keeps scheduling these great out of conference matchups. It makes me happy to be able to watch quality teams
Yeah.
go play each other.
Oh yeah. And it's great for the NAI. I mean, you get better interconference play, and you can kind of, there's a better measuring stick when you get to the playoffs, saying these people, this one beat this one and this one beat this one, so therefore it helps the conferences figure out who's strong and who's not. So I hope, Morningside's been doing it for years, us doing this game, and I hope there's more and more in the future as well. And I know we're looking forward to playing other out of conference teams as well as we move forward, even beyond this season.